Hey, how you doing? This video is a direct reply to Eisen Heinrich. There's something in between those names, but I'm not sure what it means. So if I'm mispronouncing your name, Eisen, I'm sorry. This is not an attack video to you. It's just easier for me to talk than it is to type. I think PC became mainstream in the early 90s and on. That's when you had somebody like Bill Maher who came out with a TV show called Politically Incorrect that in 2001 got too politically incorrect because he made a joke about 9/11 too soon. Um, yeah, the public became outraged. Uh, I was born in 72, so growing up in elementary school, I graduated in 84. Women in the workplace really wasn't that common, and when the women were breaking into fields, they really were having a hugely hard time. I mean, the slap and tickle and the comments and everything, they had to just put up with that shit. They had to grin and bear it because they wanted to play in the boys' club. Now, when you speak out against it, the whole world, you're a monster. I mean, look, Bill Cosby, I know that they say he raped all those women, but you know what? Back then, he didn't technically rape those women because what he did, on the most part, wasn't considered even rape at the time. Um, I know that sounds backwards or like I'm defending a guy that was total scumbag, but that's the way people viewed it at the time. It was just status quo in the Hollywood scene, and if you were a groupie or you wanted to get time with them, it was a sexist thing. That's why he was able to get away with it. That's why Roger Ailes is now not able to get away with it, because you have a whole bunch of women who now finally decided to come up, and he's a monster. But back then, you really weren't a monster unless this woman really fought hard to prove it. Part of the PC culture going too far is with the internet. With the internet now, I mean, you used to be able to joke around at work, say off colored things and all that stuff. I even remember my dad showing me a list of printed out jokes he got from one of the guys at the temple he went to that was all this off color humor that was going around the guy's office. I mean, this was before social media was really that big, so most of the stuff that was on the web was on an intranet, not an internet. So back and forth between companies was you still had private emails within the company. It's gotten a lot more advanced now where I mean the internet was around, but it wasn't the thing like you think it is now. Um, yeah, you emailed, you might be able to face chat with somebody, but mostly not really. Everything was pretty primitive back then as far as computer goes. So the office intranets were a lot more popular because it was networking your whole office. So only the people in your office got it. Dude, now you can't even post something on Facebook without worrying about getting fired. Look at that chick who made a joke about going to Africa and that she hoped she didn't get AIDS because she was going to South Africa. And she said, no, I don't have to worry, I'm white. Yeah, very off taste, very off color, maybe even insensitive. But it was a fucking joke. Before she landed, she was fired from her job. That wouldn't have happened when I was growing up. Dude, divorce just started getting popular in the 70s. Women were still ostracized for being single parents. And you know what? We had latchkey kids. Latchkey kids were kids who came home from school and opened the doors to the houses and sat there by themselves until their mothers got home. There were no helicopter parents. We went outside and played. Um, yeah, if you were 12 or 13-year old, you were already old enough to babysit your brother and sister while your parents went out on a Saturday night. We didn't have to have a nanny state. People on the block helped raise each other's children instead of calling out every parent that decides it looks their kid the wrong way. Um, People didn't live inside such a bubble, you know. I'm PC culture has really gotten too far. Now, some of the examples I said might be good that it's happening now. I'm just pointing out that there's differences. I'm not saying which one is better or which one is worse. I'm just pointing out a difference. Um, and as far as when I say tree huggers and PETA extremists, they are the PC culture of that time. And that's why I'm saying people made fun of them, because they were extremists. Yes, people wanted to save the rainforest, and it became a big awareness thing in the 80s. But not everybody went to the rainforest and fucking camped in a tree. Uh, Lots of people's views on animals have changed. There are so much more better animal laws and animal rights and people standing up for animals than there were in the 80s because of PETA. But when you hear people from PETA saying that they should just let all dogs go free because they are natural wild animals and that's how they want to live, I gotta make fun of that. That's what we're making fun of. So nobody's. I'm glad that trans people are getting more and more respect in the community, but the trans trenders are making it worse. I didn't believe that people would actually think somebody would want to pick between whether they were a boy or a girl and decide which bathroom they were going to use that day. Then I saw Milo Stewart's videos and some of his friends and stuff like that, where they're like, well, it's so fluid, da 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 da. I think I even heard one of them talk about the bathroom thing like it was no big deal. Yeah, I believe bathrooms should be unisexed anyway. I mean, we all go into a stall. But that's what people are worried about now. Somebody who's a transgender going in. Because you know what? Most people agree that uh, that Jenner chick, what's her fucking name? Caitlyn Jenner, or somebody like Chaz Bono should go into their respective bathrooms. I'd be shocked if Chaz Bono walked into the girls' room, just like I would be shocked if Caitlyn Jenner walked into the boys' room. But I think I would be a little more upset being a parent if Milo Stewart went into the girls' room and then decided to go to the boys' room. Anyway, it's just not like that in today's yesterday's culture. I mean, I'm not about the transgender thing. Yeah, you should see how hard it was for them in the 70s and 80s and 90s. The only transgender people I knew back then were sex workers and drag queens who were. They're not drag queens to say that they didn't want to transition, but they made most of their money doing drag shows and shit like that. And yes, most of them I knew were sex workers. I lived in New York City in the early 90s, and I tell you how bad it was for them back then. You couldn't even get a fucking job. You couldn't go anywhere in public. You couldn't get a job because of what you looked like, just the fact that you were transgender. Now it still might be hard, but it's not impossible. And back then, people like Imus in the Morning, that's when he got fired. He was a shock jock DJ that gave Howard Stern his start. Now Howard Stern can say whatever the fuck he wants. He doesn't get fired. Because he's on Sirius, he's on private radio. So look, even our radio stations have become dulled down. You can hardly say what you want. When a couple of guys died of a heroin overdose in the early 90s, they banned their songs from the radio. But everybody else, PC culture was really upset because they wouldn't play any Queen songs at high school proms because Freddie Mercury died of AIDS. Anyway, this is getting really long, and I doubt you're even going to listen to the whole thing. But if you did, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. And this is not an attack. I'm not attacking you. It's just a reply. It would have taken me forever to write this shit down. All right? Bye.